have our next guest that I am so excited for you to meet. She has such a great story. And what she did is she had to overcome obstacles from childhood, belief systems that were instilled upon her because of her parents. She wanted to do stand-up comedy, but guess what? Where she lived, where she was from, her parents' belief, no one was going to believe that. No one believed that she could do that. And she bought it. So let's find out how she overcame these obstacles. Welcome, Gloria Dsimone. Hi, Gloria. Welcome to The Confident Mind.
Thank you.
Have a seat. We're really, really excited about your story. So let's start from the beginning. When you were a child, what was going on?
Well, I knew that I always wanted to be in the business somehow, only because I would watch television and see these sitcoms. I used to watch Red Skelton. He was like my idol on Tuesday nights. And I would watch and say, oh, I want to be just like him. I want to do that. I want to make people laugh. I want to make people feel good. And I just would watch in awe. But if somebody would say to me, oh, little Gloria, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'd say, a nurse. I want to be a nurse. Because, God, you could never admit that you wanted to do something that big.
Because what would happen if you did admit that?
Oh, they would just say, oh, you can't do that. That's just too far out. That's, nah, you don't want to do stuff like that. You can't do that.
Did you believe them?
Sure I did.
So they sold you something and you bought it.
I bought it.
You bought that belief system. Okay. So then how did you, being funny, work for you as a child?
We moved. We moved a lot. Same county. And every time that we changed schools, they would always bring me to the front of the class, introduce me, and I never really thought I was an attractive kid. And so the kids would make fun. You know, kids are cruel. And I would think, how am I going to get these kids to like me, not make fun of me, include me? And so I made them laugh because I knew I could. I knew I had that talent, so I used that to my advantage.
And it worked for you?
Oh, it worked.
And you saw the results that you were getting?
I saw the results. It worked.
Okay. So now that you're from South Jersey, and you were living in this little tiny town, and what their belief system at that time was you got married, you had kids, that's what you did.
Well, you did. Sure, you raised kids, you were married, you were a housewife. That's what you did. Blue collar.
So they sold you that idea. You bought it because you didn't know any better. So you got married, you had children. Now you're in your 20s. Now what happens?
Well, as the kids started getting older, I started having more time to think, what's going on here? Plus, I started reading a lot of books when I was about 16 years old. Everything from Richard Bach's Illusions, the Power of Thinking Big, the Magic of Thinking Big, anything in the psychic, parapsychology field I can get my hands on.
Because you believed what they were saying in the books.
Oh, I knew. I just knew that was the truth.
Okay.
I knew it.
So it resonated with you.
It was cognitive. I knew it was the truth. I just knew that there was something else.
So now you're in your early 20s and knowing you still want to be a stand-up comic, but not really expressing it to anyone because it was just kind of squashed so much. So what happened?
Well, people used to say to me, you're so funny. You should do comedy. You should do comedy. I'm thinking, well, I don't even know how to start. I don't know anything about the business. The only thing I knew about, the only person in my life that ever had anything with show business was when they used to play cards around the table when I was a kid. They had an accordion player. That was my whole thing with show business. There wasn't anybody or anything else, So
so that was showing where your consciousness was at that point.
Right.
Okay.
An accordion player.
Okay. And you know what? I just want the audience to know that it's okay to be there. It's okay to have that consciousness at that level because you can only go up. So go on. So now you're in your 20s.
Okay, so I was always involved in a lot of community organizations, and one of them was the ambulance corps. I joined the ambulance corps, and I met a friend, Doris, who had a nightclub. She and her husband owned a nightclub. And she says, oh, why don't you come over to the nightclub? Because I expressed to her I wanted to do comedy, and she was always a good support system. Come over to the nightclub, and you're going to meet Charlie Acey. Charlie Acey's going to help you out. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll go over there and see Charlie Acey. So I went over to the nightclub, and I thought, oh, man, I'm not going to know what to ask this guy. He's going to think I'm stupid. I don't know anything about the business. But when I got there, I just said what I wanted to do, and then he just talked nonstop I didn't have to say anything. He was telling me everything. And then he knew somebody that had a studio. And if I go to the studio, that this woman was going to help me because she was a coach for singers, dancers, comedians. She had all the camera equipment. She could show you everything. And I thought, oh, my God, I can't believe this. You know, just ask and you shall receive.
Okay, so what was going on in your mind was you were shocked, but you were stepping forward and going to these places and going to this next woman. Why? What gave you that confidence to go and see her?
Oh, well, I couldn't not go because that would be, you know, I was pushed up against the wall. My spiritual being had to have this outlet, this spiritual gym, so to speak. I needed to express myself.
Okay, now audience, I want you to remember this. When I had talked about in our first show that sometimes the human being will do more to avoid pain, they'll do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. So guess what? In Gloria's case, it was more painful for her not to do it. So that allowed her to move forward. Okay, so now you meet this woman.
And she told me like exactly what you would need to do stand-up. She would, you know, you need an act, you have to. I kind of already knew in a sense. I had a sense for timing and delivery, but not how to put it together. So she showed me a lot of that. She also taught me that you would need music in an act. In those days, they would have an opening song, a middle song, and she showed me how you would get that together, how you would do the songs. She had a piano player there, a conductor who was very famous in the business. He did all my arrangements for me. This cost me a lot of money, but I knew you had to invest the money in order to get something back. And I was working during the day.
So it's not like you had all this money piled away. You were actually working to make sure that you had the money to pursue your dream.
Oh, yeah, I was working on every kind of job I could think of.
Okay.
You know, just, you know, I wasn't an educated person, so I would have to take lots of factory jobs, or like I worked for Oscar Mayer. I was a wiener inspector, believe it or not. It was just one of the things. I didn't use that in the act, but
so what was going on in your mind during all of this time? Now you're with legitimate people, and you're from this small town in South Jersey. And back then, and I'm not sure if you realize this in the audience though, but back then, if you went on a cruise, you would have like a bon voyage party. If you went on a airplane ride, even if it was, from New Jersey to Ohio, people would come to the airport and like wave to you as you were getting on the plane. It was a big deal. So now you're in South Jersey, you're meeting all of these legitimate people. What's going on in your mind?
First thing I thought of, well, this isn't so intimidating. These people are just like normal people. They're not anything, that over and above anybody else. Like we're all the same. And I thought, well, like she said, the coach said, you need to do an act on stage. You have to get out there. And I thought, oh, okay, now where am I going to go? Well, one of the women who worked on the ambulance corps, her daughter worked in a strip club.
Okay.
So she knew. She knew the owner, and the owner said, yeah, she can come over and do 5 minutes.
So your first job as a stand-up comic was in a strip club?
Was in a strip club.
Okay.
And I mean, I didn't care. It was a stage. It didn't make any difference to me. So I went over there, got up on the stage, and of course the guys thought it was a joke. When I say a joke, they figured, she's going to strip. This is just the opening act. And I thought, oh my God, a couple of them yelled, take it off, and I thought, oh no, but I kept going, and finally I got them to laugh because I was saying some risque stuff, which they like to hear, and after it was over, I got applaud, and I thought, yeah, I did it.